Hey everyone, I am Jeff Lund, and this is the pilot episode of the Mediocre Alaskan podcast, where we are intolerant of weak-minded attitudes that keep people from pursuing new, exciting things in the areas of fitness, outdoors, and general lifestyle. New, first ever show coming at you. So this is the Mediocre Alaskan podcast, episode number 1. Give you a little bit of background about me here, the host, Jeff Lund. Born in Colorado, moved to Alaska when I was 5. My parents were teachers and had that kind of wild hair to go somewhere that's really, really exciting, change the trajectory of the family tree forever. Went to college in Arizona, and then got a teaching job in Manteca, California, and taught there for 10 years before I moved back to Kloak in 2013. Summer of 2014, I got a job at Ketchikan High School in Ketchikan, Alaska, and moved there and have been there since. Now just trying to be a good Alaskan, fishing, hunting, hiking, all that stuff, trying to live the stereotype as much as possible, except for, not clubbing baby seals or riding polar bears or whatever nonsense is still out there. Trying not to be a reality TV show. Maybe if anything, this is going to turn into what it's really like to be an Alaskan rather than watching TV. I know that makes for good entertainment, but it doesn't really help us when it comes to what people expect when they come up here, the questions that we have to answer as Alaskans. We gladly do it, of course, but there are certain things that we just feel as though people are so misled. It's not even fair. But so anyway, here I am. It's tour season is over. All the tourists are back in their homes down in the lower 48. The seasonal workers are also gone, so Ketchikan is down to its winter population. And here we go. Ready for heading into that winter that everybody thinks is cold and harsh and awful. One of the biggest questions I got, one of the most common questions I got when I was in college, and then later when I lived in California, was what are the winters like? And the winters are not really as bad as you'd think. I would say that Ketchikan is kind of a junior varsity Alaska when it comes to weather. The winters are a lot more mild, a more severe version maybe of a Seattle weather. There's plenty of rain. It doesn't quite get cold enough to snow, but of course last year made everything go haywire. The March was awful. We got pretty much all of our snow in March. There were a couple snowstorms in December and January, and then it was cold. But February we started to think that we were coming out of it, and then March 1st came, and a half inch of snow or a half foot of snow. By the time the month was over, we'd had 4 or 5 feet of snow. It was ridiculous. It set everything back. The spring steelhead were off. The summer runs of fish were off. It was just crazy. The deer up in the Alpine were their horns were still really balled up into August when they're really starting to get really long and really developed and starting to shed the velvet. They were still in the velvet for a little bit longer. So kind of a late winter, but that was definitely not the norm. Winters aren't so bad up here. If you can tolerate darkness, we don't have the 24-hour darkness like you have when you go further up north, for sure. But it's gray, and that's not fun, and it's rainy. But you really have to have the attitude that, hey, what do I hate worse? Do I hate traffic, or do I hate having to put on a jacket? For some people, they pick traffic. They would rather be in traffic as long as it's warm and sunny than to have to deal with cold, rainy darkness or grayness. But I am really starting to think, and maybe I have thought, and I've really finalized the fact that I would much rather be here where it's gray and it's rainy, but it's calm. There's stuff to do outside. There's snowshoeing. There's hiking. if it does happen to be nice, and it is, you have those really beautiful winter days, there's never traffic. You don't have to worry about traffic. We don't have gangs here. We don't have a lot of the problems that come with down south. And it makes me really think that, hey, this is definitely the place to be. I am not, of course, advocating you move here because, Ketchikan would not be what it is if it got too overpopulated. But that's the decision. That is ultimately what it is, and that's why I've been offered jobs to go back to California. Or there have been maybe some temptations to head back to the reality of the big world and the rush. But no, I don't. I really don't want to go back there. Without question, like going back to visit. There's really no place in the world like if you go into Yosemite Valley and the Tuolumne Meadows, places like that in California, there's nowhere that's like that, and it's absolutely beautiful, and the trout fishing is amazing. There's some sections of the state that have amazing hunting too, but as far as living that day in, day out, the brochure of a lot of places is really, really good, but what do you do with the rest of the year?
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
If the hunting in California is really good, or the hunting in wherever, it doesn't really matter where it is, the hunting is really, really good, but it's only 3, 4, 5 weeks out of the year, what do you do with the rest of the year? There's fishing, there's other things, true, but how accessible is that, and how often are you actually going to do it? There is not a day in the year that I can't either hunt or fish in Ketchikan. Like, no day. I'm not one of those guys who's waiting 10 months out of the year to go hunting once or twice. My entire year is not dependent upon one hunt where I may or may not get a deer. And it's also not based on, hey, I'm going to, catch some small trout and I'm going to deal with this. But, the trout season then closes down. One of the most infuriating things about fishing in California was when the season would close down. These great rivers with beautiful fish would close down. And so, you're stuck from November until April with really nowhere to fish. You can adjust, you can fish the Delta, and there's some striper and there's some things like that. But as far as like just the access to the type of fishing that you want to do on your terms when it's shut down, that really makes things tough, and you got to wait. And you find yourself kind of wishing away parts of the year, which is never what you want to do because, it's your life. Wishing away weeks or months of your life is definitely not the way to go. But I love California. I love when I can go back down there in June, usually spend a couple weeks down there and do some fishing on the old rivers when the fishing is good. You have the runoff, and it's not the best time necessarily in June, but it can be really good. And I love going down there and doing some fishing. And there's some hunts that I want to make down in Arizona and Montana and Oregon. There are definitely some hunts to still go on. But as far as a home base where I can live that brochure as much as possible, that's definitely here. It does take a little bit of hardiness for sure, because the weather isn't always going to be nice. It's not always going to be sunny, not always going to be warm. So if you are into cold and you are okay with rain and you're okay with darkness and you're okay with a certain level of misery and not being connected and not coming in from the field after a couple days wet and cold and going to a nice more warm meal at a chain restaurant or watching a football game or basketball game at Buffalo Wild Wings, then you can make it here. And that's what I've chosen to do, and that's what the real Alaskan that lives up here the entire year has to come to terms with and deal with that cold and that dark. And like I said, Ketchikan is much less extreme than places further north where the sun sets for a couple weeks at a time. And it's really, really cold. We definitely don't have to deal with it here. Some people actually would prefer really, really cold to really, really wet like it is here, because sometimes you get that wet gets down and kind of soaks into your marrow, whereas you can put on more clothing and kind of be warmish in that really dry type cold that you get in Fairbanks. We've gone up there a couple times for basketball trips, and it's cold. It is certainly cold, but it's a dry cold. You get at least to see the sun during the day, and that's kind of nice to see it. Ketchikan, cold, damp, wet. That's the way it is. But anyway, I want to talk about hunting, because it's October and it's that pre-rut time, and it's time to get after it. It's time to brave the cold, and cold for now, of course, because a couple of months ago there were a couple of days in the 70s, and that was pretty nice. Now it is rainy. Tomorrow I want to go hunting, and the high is supposed to be 42 degrees, the low is 40, and it's supposed to rain 1.5 inches. So the problem, of course, is, hey, it's going to be cold, but do I not? I mean, it's the weekend. Like, what else? What other choice do I have? It's getting to the point of the year where I don't really have enough time after school or after work to go out and do a really good loop and look for something. I'll definitely not have enough time to process it before it gets dark. So the program is either going to be like a timber type thing or a muskeg type thing. There are people who swear by the deep timber this time of year, that transition point between the high alpine and between those real ruddy areas of muskeg, that deep timber, because the hemlock trees and the spruce trees and the cedar trees make a nice real canopy, and it's really, really damp up here, really wet. So you have moss create this sort of carpeting, so you can get around really easily, and you have some really nice open shooting lanes if you happen to see a deer. But of course, you're not going to be able to see 150, 200 yards out. Some of the muskegs you obviously can't see that far either. But some people swear by being on a muskeg, either walking the muskegs on the outer edges, or sitting on a muskeg and calling from there. And then of course you got people who call different ways. You got I'm going to call 3 times and then wait for an hour, then I'm going to move on. Other people continue to call consistently throughout, or call once and then wait for an extended period of time. Some people don't call at all; they just wait, see what's going to happen. Other people use horns and they rattle. So there's a lot of different methods. Everybody swears by what they do, but because there's enough deer around here, it's nice that all of them kind of work. So your local expert will tell you this, and you could do it, and it doesn't work, but that's fine. It works for them. So I have a couple spots in mind, and I don't know where I want to go. The last time I saw a buck, it was the last time I was out for deer. I was with a buddy of mine, and he had dropped me off, and he was going to go to a different spot. He was going to walk a different muskeg, and he was going to come down an old logging road, and we were going to meet back at a rendezvous point. And I came to a spot. I was looking down. 98 yards to a buck I saw that was quartering away from me. I saw horns, or I saw on one side that it was at least a fork. So there was a nice, fairly tall split, especially for the area. And I was thinking about shooting it, and then it stood directly broadside to me, and it was looking straight across the muskeg. So I thought, man, this is the perfect shot if I want to take it. So I looked through the scope, and I was deciding what I was going to do, and I put the gun down for a second, and I saw my buddy emerge from the forest out into the outer edge of the muskeg. You kind of have the transition is kind of a scrub brush type transition until the open muskeg, which is like that low peaty moss. And it's my buddy, and he's waving his hand. It's like he's flagging down an airplane or something like that, like an over-exaggerated, hello, hey, here I am. And I'm thinking, dude, what are you doing? I'm 98 yards from this buck, and you're right across from it. You are, if it was a triangle, between me and the buck is 98 yards. Between me and you is the hypotenuse of this right triangle. It looks like right across. How do you not see this thing, man? It can't be more than 50 yards from you. And he doesn't see it, and he keeps walking towards me, and I put my hands up next to my head, and I make horn type motions. I'm thinking, no, dude, don't do it. Don't go. Look right across. And the buck looks at me and looks at him and then looks back at me. And I don't know if he knows, because I'm waving now. And then he takes off, and that was it. Of course, I hustled down the muskeg edge to him and said, dude, there's a buck. And we kind of pursued it into the brush, but there was so much noise that we were making. There was no way we were going to get it. A few minutes later, we heard a gunshot, but it sounded like it may have been a little bit too far away for that buck. But so anyway, that was the last time I was out. I have 2 deer in the freezer so far, but I haven't been buying any ground beef or any sausage or any chicken. So I've been eating exclusively fish from the summer and deer from the summer. So I've already gone through 1 deer already. So if I'm going to keep that up to where I'm not going to buy ground beef and I'm going to keep the organic, free-range, grass-fed meat, then I'm going to need to get another one, maybe not be quite so picky. So that will be the goal tomorrow. Head out to one of those spots, whatever catches my attention or catches my interest at 4:45 tomorrow morning. Thanks for listening. That will conclude the pilot episode of the Mediocre Alaskan podcast. If you go to themediocrealaskan.com, there's a bunch of the old content that I've been posting for the last couple of years when it was known as a different website. Also on Facebook at The Mediocre Alaskan, and we will see you next time.